Hi, everybody. So today I'll be talking about smart contracts and really taking them mainstream. So I think that point of focus or that vision has not clearly been articulated yet. So we, as a team, we really wanted to analyze the value proposition of tokens and smart contracts and really think about what real problems they're solving. And we sort of developed a mission statement for ourselves that really comes down to we want to use these tools, we want to use smart contracts, we use tokens to make voluntary exchange simpler, faster, and more affordable. And we think that those are the pillars of its utility. Next slide, please. So the administration of commercial activities is slow, complex, and expensive. So we see this as the critical problem that tokens and more importantly, smart contracts that control them solve. Now, I think it's really important to think about what this means. Like, what does the administration of commercial activities mean? Well, if you can think about how companies are run today, organizations, trusts, partnerships, legal entities, and even just commercial activities in general, it's always guided by, if not controlled by, contracts, agreements. People have an understanding of what the outcome is of a particular engagement of a commercial activity is, who's responsible for what, how that work is supposed to get done, what happens if things go wrong, how do you negotiate if things do go wrong, how all these kind of components are typically codified or described in the contract beforehand. Of course, that's not always the case. There's parts that are missing, but these administrative processes can be quite taxing. And when you think about today, like pretty complex contracts or shareholder agreements or investment agreements, they end up being a fairly long process with a lot of review, a lot of cognitive overhead issues, where people just have to chew through things that are unfamiliar to them, that are non-standardized, to understand them, because it does have a material impact on their commercial life and their well-being. Next slide, please. So the solution, as we identify it, is of course smart contracts, and of course blockchain, BSV, and of course tokens. We think those are critical components to it. But what we think to solve this problem in its entirety, to really have the maximum impact and take advantage of the opportunity that is in front of us with BSV, is to think about it in a few different building blocks. So when you think about what a token is in terms of ownership rights, something that's backing it with value, it typically has terms and conditions that are significant, that describe the rights, describe all of what you're owed and how you're owed it, and what can go wrong if the dispute happens. So owning a token and having it in a non-custodial fashion is all fine and dandy. It's great, but the meaning of it and the value in it is much more rooted in the contracts themselves, that today, with the typical token systems that we see, are just in PDFs, Word documents, in email, on Google Drive, and they haven't really evolved. They haven't changed to take advantage of this new paradigm. So when you have a token, you could have it, you could own the private keys, it could be completely non-custodial, but what does that token mean? What does it represent in value? How does it differentiate itself from other tokens? And how do you really know if it's what the rights are as you go forward through the life cycle of the ownership of that token? So the other pillars that we see as being important to bring into the fold and to bring into a protocol on chain, and to have it automated, and to have smart contracts really take advantage of this type of properties, this new paradigm shift. We think that the governance components, the resolutions by shareholders, resolutions by members, we think is really important. We think that even like the negotiations, the drafting of the agreements can be improved with smart contracts, with codification. And we think that the way that this can be accessed, this protocol, can only be done with a really sensible platform that brings together this complexity and makes it much, much simpler, and makes the ability for us to administer these things, takes it to the next level. Next slide, please. So our journey, just want to give you a little background, because I know there's not a lot of new people kind of learning about BSV. So what we've been working since about, well, I personally have been working on it since about March 2018, which is when I first started thinking about smart contracts and studying the technology. I looked at a lot of other systems and basically came to the conclusion that the platform, the foundational component, was really, really critical. It had to be able to scale. BSV was the one that can only do it, the original Bitcoin protocol. So there was a lot of initial R&D around that, but there was also a lot of R&D around smart contracts themselves, and contracts and contract law and regulations, and how this is really going to play into a mainstream workable solution. So we spend a lot of time doing this properly. And not only is it important to have the foundation like BSV down correct, but the protocol itself must be really, really sound. It must be extensible. It must be scalable. It must be ready for mainstream use. So the development of the protocol and the proof of concept wallet was the next stage. We had to think about how we were going to make this thing a usable tool that would take the advantages of the protocol and make it a mainstream universal tool. And we really started, our company was only founded in March of 2019. And we really started to build our team in the early parts of the summer. And that's when we started to build the product based on our study and analysis of the customer demand. So we launched the beta version of the protocol in May 2019, and we got our pre-seed investment about the same time. We are aiming now to launch our platform, the private beta, which will be mostly for stakeholders and investors and customers in the short term, but in November. That's our plan. So I want to prime your thinking before I reveal our platform and really show you what we've been working on. Email. I think email is a really important analogy to be thought through. So when Steve Jobs said that computers were going to be the bicycle for our minds, I think that's really important to think about in the context of what software can do for us generally. It's an extension of our minds. It lets us organize information more efficiently. It lets us get more done. And the way that information is architected and presented to us is really, really important to consider. So if you think about how email is done today, it's very structured in its data format. You've got your CC, your send, or the sender receiver, the body of the content, your attachments. It's easy to navigate and know who sent it, who all those features, where they are, and quickly get to the core of the information that you need to extract from that so you can action it and move on. When you think about contracts, they are far, far from that now. So typically it will be an attachment in email, and it will be a PDF or a Word document that's not structured, it's totally non-standardized, and every time you read a new one, it's likely different than the last. There's obviously a lot of examples that doesn't play the case, but quite often it is very much the case. So if you could imagine what email would be like today, if the only part of the message format was just sending an attachment of a PDF, where in the PDF you had a non-standardized format of who it was from, who sent it, who the BCC are people, and what the content is, it would be administratively or cognitively very taxing to kind of navigate that and really process that information and make the best of it. Next slide, please. So if you can think about the email protocol and the way that it's structured, we want to extend that kind of concept to contracts themselves. We want to structure the contracts so that you have the common fields, the common clauses in a codified format where when you open a new contract, you can have a look at it and instantly identify all the key parts that are relevant to you, have software extract meaning from you, and make the job a lot easier to understand and be able to action it, to review it, to reduce the risk of it. So this is an example here is a modern email app, and they've come a long way since the original ones where they've really presented that information and structured a lot more around email in a way that makes it a lot easier. And this is an app called Superhuman. So you can see on the sides here, they have structured information that's very, very important to the context of the email. It gives you a quick heads up about who's sending to you, who they are, what's their background, how does it apply to the message body, and allows you to move quicker and be more efficient by getting through your email and digesting it in a way that's useful and productive. So we want to take that same concept and think about contracts from our app and platform perspective, building upon a more expressive contracting structured data. Next slide, please. So I also want to just touch upon the complexity of this type of project. So when you get into really building out a smart contract protocol on a platform and making it feature rich, there's a lot of complexity that goes in there, but it's complexity that actually really ends up being a much simpler solution in the long term. So when you have a structured framework that codifies a lot of the important terms and conditions, everyone can start to interoperate on a common standard. If you look at the way that Ethereum and other projects have tried to using their code contract standards, it's very, very limited in the feature set, and it's fairly non-standard. So in order for these things to emerge, I'm thinking like the last 6 years, there's been very little progress on the ability to really add features that smart contracts can do to the tokens that are out there. And that's where we think that we really stand out from the crowd. We have a tool, a protocol that's flexible, that's upgradable, that over time you can continue to add features. And as the contract matures or as the contract needs amending due to real commercial needs or requirements, they can make real fundamental changes that are easy to do, that everyone is made aware of in a very like transparent way, in the spirit of what Bitcoin can do with its properties, but can be done so in an efficient way that doesn't require everyone to necessarily sign off on it or necessarily hand their tokens out, have reissued ones. So it becomes, especially at scale, when you think about the opportunities available to us with this type of system, becomes a lot more efficient in many ways, not only in the costs, the hard costs in terms of technical costs, but also in the administrative and mental costs. Next slide, please. All right, so enough talk. Let's see some results. So I've got a video to play here for the platform. I recorded this a couple hours ago, hand on heart. This is an app that is working. This is all on mainnet. We had a technical issue where I was unable to share my screen, which is is my fault. So I take responsibility for that. But we also have realized that this format, 15 minutes, is not enough to really explore the app. And what I want to do is do a webinar in the next week, basically, or sometime when we can gather enough people that are interested to really dive deep into our platform, especially customers and anyone who's interested in the technology, they're thinking about using it, they're thinking about using the tokenized protocol or our app. We encourage to reach out, and we will do a webinar. We will do a live demo of it. We will take them through all the details, and we look forward to doing that. So play the video, please. All right, here it is. Here's the sign-in page for Tokenized, our platform. So let's quickly sign in for you. So we also have built a authenticator app that's on the iOS and Android platforms, and that lets you use biometrics as well as PIN to quickly log in for a better experience and to approve purchases or transfers and things like that. So here we are. Here's the app just loading here. So to give you a quick tour, on the side here, you've got all of your entities. So this is an individual entity. This is obviously my personal one, demo one, but you can add companies, you can add trusts, you can add any kind of legal entity for either has legal personhood or has for reporting purposes. So trusts, for example, or partnerships in that case. We've only got to individual at this point. We're planning on bringing entities in soon, but at this stage, we're just on the individual. But I'll still show you all the key features. So quickly, I'll run through this. So we got activity, treasury, contracts, and relationships. Down here, we've got the ability to lock the app if you want to walk away with it. So it requires a password to get back in. And we got some help features. So these are actually that's not quite working. We got some work to do there, but they are part of the app. And up here, we've got my display picture. That's part of my Paymail profile. It's public. And the fact that this is an individual account. If we go to this side here on activity, you've got your net worth. So this is just like the sum, or basically the net of your assets and liabilities, what you're actually worth. Down here, activities, it's basically your log, your activity feed of all of your commercially meaningful events and actions. So you can see you've got coupons that have been issued in the past by James Belding, the issuers. I've personally issued these, a goodie bag, a contract was executed for the CGLive promotional giveaway. And down here, we've got traded assets, received Bitcoin. These are atomic swaps when I say traded assets, sent Bitcoin. And if you click on these, you get a little display, it gives you the details, and it can take you to what's on chain, for example. So that was done this afternoon. Okay. Treasury, quick view. This is all your assets, and this is all your liabilities that you issued. So if you create a smart contract and issue coupons or tokens of any kind, they'll show up as liabilities just as they'll show up as assets, and I'll show that in a second. And then importantly, here's the real meat of what we're doing here is the contracts. So everything is based on smart contracts in a really meaningful way. So even when you've got entity like contracts like shareholder agreements and constitutions or arts and mems and the rules that an entity is not only created and governed by, but the amendments that come over time and the resolutions that are passed by the members and the people in that company. So all of those are really controlled by a smart contract, and that's really what the tokenized protocol is all about, is a comprehensive protocol that accounts for all commercial events and actions that center around contracts, and tokens are a part of being able to represent or signify ownership rights over various types of things, various types of rights. or obligations. So for example, if you're a member of a company or shareholder, the tokens would be a share certificate to represent that ownership. So these are drafts and these are actives. So just to give you a quick look, this is one that's already been drafted. It goes through, you've got your header, gives you the title of the contract, the type of contract that it is, the issuer, which is myself because I've issued it, duration, which it can expire or it can go indefinitely, governing law, jurisdiction. So these are codified terms and conditions. They are a symbol that are built into the protocol that are recognizable as software, and there's many more of those to come. So it's built throughout different asset types and things like that. So I'll get more into that in a bit. Here's some of the assets that we have. Contract operator, I've just shown this. This is largely gonna be hidden from the scene when we actually present this to users, but this is for the technical people out there. You can get a sense of some of the key features, how it works. Oracles are all about, when you draft a contract, you're essentially drafting and declaring which oracles are permitted to interoperate with this contract. And this is what it's all about. So you declare which company, the Oracle ID and the endpoint, and it allows them to issue signatures and trusted data feeds that basically the smart contract can help enforce. Further down, we've got definitions, variables, administration. So definitions is largely about software, interpretable words to give clarity about what they're meaning. So it can be a particular term or a name or a counterparty, and you can describe it, and it's all codified. We haven't fleshed these pieces out, but these are part of the protocol. So our drafting tool here is still not finished in this regard, but it's important. Variables are more like when you're basically going in creating like a cost or a price or weather or something that has a data type and a value to it, then you'd basically declare it here, and these values can be referenced in the body of agreement. So the body of agreement is the legal prose, the part of the agreement that is not machine interpretable or enforceable. It's confidentiality clauses, different clauses that really basically make sure that people behave a certain way, but it's for humans to read. But it gives clarity and precision to the contract, and it makes the contract complete in that everything can be referenced on chain. Whether it's encrypted or not, it's always there and part of the contract and controllable. So I'll quickly draft up a contract. So I just picked up a coupon one, but there's other ones to come. So loyalty points, admission tickets, membership tickets or certificates. So here we go. So we'll call this one CGLive promotional giveaway. Spell it right. So then we go down to type. So it's asset coupon. Duration, we'll leave that as indefinite, but you can select the day and time. It's anyone you want. Law of, we'll say this one's of England and Wales. So again, you can pick anyone. We have a full list of all the different type, but we've kept it simple for this demo. We'll say one CG baseball cap. So this is a coupon for a single baseball cap, but we'll issue 50 of these. And the face value will say that's £8 each. So it expires with the contract termination. So these never expire until this contract terminates, and we'll make them transferable so people can trade them in a permissionless manner, peer-to-peer manner. So we'll add another asset. So we'll say this one is a VIP dinner. We'll give out 20 of those, and we'll say there's £250 face value. So a lot of champagne and some nice seafood. We go on transfer policy, so we'll make that transferable as well. So those are effectively your assets. We call them the asset definitions, but they give clarity to what those assets represent, and the tokens that get transferred around, people own, are always in reference to these asset fields. And then the rest of it we've spoken about in the previous slide. So we'll go ahead and we'll execute this. So again, you got your authenticator app to authenticate. To my fingerprint there. So the contract is being formed. So the Tokenized protocol has a few different on-chain transactions that make this contract formed and the assets issued. So this is just going through the process of publishing those to the blockchain, having the smart contract agent validate them, respond to say that yes, the contract is live or in accordance with the terms and conditions and the protocol. And there you go. So the asset coupons have been created. It's just finalizing. All right, excellent. So we'll go to view issued assets. So it takes us to the treasury. So on our liabilities, you can see that we've got a baseball cap here, 20 of them, 12 pounds. It's just popped up. And on this side, we've got the VIP dinner and baseball cap, 20, 50 and 20. Whoops. Oh, sorry, baseball cap. That's a different one I issued earlier, my apologies. VIP dinner 20 and 50, there you go. And we'll do a quick atomic swap as well. So Scott's online up in Brisbane right now. So I'm gonna send him, I'm gonna request some, let's say British pounds. Let's say 250 British pounds for, we'll get a real good deal. Let's say we'll ask for 2 of those. We'll offer 2 of these baseball caps, make it a great deal for him. We got too many of them anyways. So reviewing. So there you go, pound sterling, 250, sending for 2 coupons. That's what we're giving him, that's what he's receiving. There's the rate, and then we'll send that. So this is an on-chain mainnet action. So it's been sent. So we go over to our activity. If we look at pending others, we can see that that's been sent to him. So he's got to just open this up on his screen basically and review the trade and sign it if he's happy and send it back. So this is an on-chain message too. This is all 100% chain, including the trade offers. There you go. So he signed it and it's come back to me for final signing. So we'll open that up. And there you go. Just ignore a little pop-up that shouldn't have happened. There you go. So the atomic swap is done. That's all on chain now. So 2 coupons were given to Scott, 2.5 pounds back to me. So yeah, that's the app. The quick tour that I can get in for the running out of time here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing more of this. We're definitely gonna have a private beta coming up soon, and we'll likely be doing some more webcams where we can invite people to ask questions about the app. I can do more demos, take them on tours, explain more of it. But we hope that was at least informative and somewhat exciting. Thank you guys. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We've been working really hard and are super excited to share with you guys. We've got a lot more to come in the next few months. So more features will be rolled out. We sort of got past the point where we've now built ourselves the proper infrastructure. This is like a legit full web wallet, full non-custodial, so all client-side signing. But we've also got the foundation for complex multi-sig flows to support entities and what have you. Also, we're looking at roles now. So the idea of custody and an entity is not just about the person who's the legal owner, the beneficiary. It's also about all the roles that are of people that play a role in managing the finances. So directors for a company, but you might have like power of attorney or legal guardians or many, many different roles. Even the custodian is a perfect example. So we think that's all an important part of managing the assets and having the different types of security models all built in and flexible with this. But the foundation layer must be non-custodial with private keys, and then you can go anywhere you want from there. So we hope you like that, and I look forward to speaking to you guys more on the panel and answering any questions if you have them.